Hello, welcome to Motorshed. Today we're looking at the Range Rover Evoque, a car that until now has eluded me somewhat. I've driven everything else in Jaguar Land Rover's range, but not this bad boy, which happens to be the most popular model in their lineup. So today we're going to take it for a drive and see why more people are choosing this car than arguably better German rivals. This particular model is the HSE Dynamic Lux. It has a 2-litre diesel engine with an automatic gearbox. So this benefits from 20-inch black alloy wheels. I think they were black at one stage. With all the hand car washes closed, this owner hasn't really kept this one clean. Lots of other black accents which really make this car pop. You've got the pillars, the roof in gloss black, black mirrors, and a nice little bonnet scoops and louvres on the side. Other than that, you get pretty standard black trim above the wheels and along the side skirts. I guess that sort of stuff's cheap and easy to replace if you scuff it when you go off-roading. Because you can go off-roading in this car, it is capable of doing that. It's not a full fat Range Rover, but it's not just a show pony, it can do some of the 4x4 stuff that you get with the bigger models. So you have more black accents at the front. You've got the Range Rover badge in black, which looks very nice, this blacked out grille and bits of trim at the bottom here. It makes the car look really smart. This colour is one of the less popular colours, but I really like it. It's called, all in all, a very nicely designed motor. So you've got all the styling cues of the bigger cars in the Range Rover range, but this one is a lot more usable due to its smaller size, which is probably one of the reasons why a lot of women like these. But that's not to say it's a woman's car, because it is very gender neutral, which in this modern age is very important. So you've got an automatic tailgate, which you can open inside the car from the key, or of course underneath the number plate. So in here, currently full of all my gear, but there's 420 litres of space in here, 1445 if you fold the rear seats down. So that is smaller than some of the rivals. Even the BMW X1 has more boot space, but let's face it, you're probably not going to notice the difference. This one has an optional rubber mat in the bottom. Superb for collecting the blood of your victims, so that when the forensics team go over your car, they're not going to find any trace. But remove that and you do have a fairly flat loading bay, no ridges or anything, so it's easy to slide things in. You have space under here for tools and that sort of thing, a decent sized bit of space here. Lift it up again and you've got things like tyre pressure gauge and some foam for filling up the tyres. You've got some missing tools in here.
Really?
Yeah, towing arm, all sorts of stuff missing. Oh. Plenty hooks for tethering things too. If you're a fan of this channel, you'll know that I'm a fan of hooks. We've got a 12-volt socket here as well for plugging your fridge into, and a removable parcel shelf. And that's pretty much a lot as far as the boot goes. So it's in here where the Evoque suffers a little bit. Rear space isn't exactly plentiful. You do get some nice leather seats, the same as the front here, but not an awful lot else. There's nothing here really for rear seat entertainment. You've got some vents for the climate. That's really it. So not an awful lot in the way of luxuries. This centre armrest has a cup holder, not even any storage, just a soft place to rest your elbow. So not an awful lot in the way of passenger comforts back here. But I just squeeze into the back. It's really not that bad. I think it comes when if you want 3 passengers in here, which you can have, there are enough seat belts for them, but it would be a little tight for Mr. Middle. Otherwise, fairly nice in here. Really good option to have the panoramic glass sunroof. Really opens up the space in here. I do feel without that it would feel quite cramped in here. Although I do have a decent amount of headroom. I'm 5'10", I've probably got 3 or 4 inches. Yeah, that glass roof, definitely a good option. I would say you would get 4 people back here in comfort. Legroom is absolutely fine. It's just really width-wise, because the car kind of tapers in a bit, it doesn't give you an awful lot of width in here. So in the front we have quite a smart little interior. There are some nice bits of trim. I'm not quite sure what this is. It doesn't feel like leather, doesn't look like leather, but it does feel premium with some nice contrast stitching. It's not until a lot lower down that you get to the scratchy plastics, but you kind of expect that. It's very comfortable, I have to say. These seats are actually more comfortable than my F-Pace. So in here you have a 6.5-inch touchscreen, which does take its time to fire into life, that is for sure. Turn the engine off. It is a diesel, it is a little bit noisy. All in all, quite smart in here. You've got plenty storage pockets, decent sized glove box. The door bins aren't bad, and you've got pretty much electric everything that you would want. In terms of features, it does pretty much match its German rivals. In here you'll find the interior is a lot more interesting than the likes of the equivalent BMW, Mercedes, Audi, even Volvo. Just one of the many things that I think people are drawn to with this car, that and the fact that it echoes the look of the very popular larger SUVs in their range. As with many Jaguar Land Rover models, they are now phasing this out, but in this model, which is 2016, you do get the gear selector that rises from the dashboard. And on that note, we'll take it for a drive and see what we discover. So, driving the Range Rover Evoque, and I have to say first impressions are very good. The steering wheel feels quite high up compared to what I'm used to in my F-Pace, but all in all it's a very comfortable driving position. The steering is also nice and light. It doesn't feel like a big car, I guess because it's not. It's still got a little bit of lag when you're pulling out. That's just a common Jaguar Land Rover trait. Nothing much you can do about that. But Jaguar Land Rover, if you're watching, sort it out. You've been doing it for long enough. So as I mentioned, this is the 2-litre diesel engine. Nice automatic gearbox, and it is nice and smooth. Although at times it can be a little noisy, but not on par with the Audi equivalent, which I find to be quite a noisy engine. So the main rivals for this, I guess, would be the BMW X4 possibly, Mercedes GLC, but this one outsells them massively. I think the main contributing factor to that is the way it looks. It is a cracking looking car, it appeals to a lot of people, and I guess it appeals to those sorts of people that want something British, although not very British in the true sense of the word, but as close as we're going to get. But it's a peppy enough little engine, works well in this car. It's essentially the same engine that I have in my Jaguar F-Pace, but in a much smaller package, much more suited to this car than it is mine. Sometimes when dropping down a gear it can be a little bit vicious. I'm not exactly being heavy-footed, but I've always found that to be the downfall with Jaguar Land Rover products. It is the engine gearbox combo. They just don't quite work in sync with each other as well as others. And of course you get the lag, which is never welcome, especially when you're trying to dash out of a busy island. But it's the kind of thing you would get used to and learn to account for. Turned out quite nice today. The sun has come out for the Evoque. I still remember when the concept came out, watching a program on Discovery or something like that. Some rich sultan wanted somebody to make an Evoque out of a Range Rover Sport. So they kind of chopped the top off, lowered it down, put one massive door on the side, because of course this does come as a 3-door as well as the 5. I remember seeing that and thinking, actually it looks quite smart. A few years later it went from concept to production and became the best-selling car ever for them. And it's fairly easy to see why. It is a good looking car, it does drive well. I've heard that rivals do drive a little better, but you know, we're comparing Megan Fox to Cameron Diaz here. It's, you know, you take either. Although this has 20-inch alloy wheels, it's not an uncomfortable ride. It is a little bit wallowy, but I think that's what contributes to it being a bit more comfortable ride. I think if the suspension was a bit firmer it would feel a lot less comfortable, but it's just a nice balance, I feel. Ride wise, quiet, comfortable. I think you could easily cruise in this car. I think if you're in the habit of going for a spirited drive though, I would choose the BMW X4 over this. It would just suit that sort of thing a bit better, but for day-to-day driving this is very, very comfortable, nice to drive. The steering's nice and responsive. The engine's quiet unless you rag it. It is a great little car. I can see why so many people buy them. So, new, you can get your hands on one of these for as little as £30,000. This being the HSE Dynamic Lux and a bit higher up the range, you can get one of these for as little as £40,000. So that's a fair old premium. But in terms of the used market, this one is coming up to 5 years old and is worth around about £24,000 to £25,000. So in terms of depreciation, that's not actually too bad at all. In the UK, if there's two types of cars that you're always safe off buying for depreciation, it's small hatchbacks and SUVs, the two most popular types of cars in the UK. This kind of fits in between both, and they are very sought after, they're very popular, very desirable, which keeps their prices fairly high. That's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, bye bye.